Hello, good day to you out there wherever you are in the world. This is Engineer Salman Akan welcoming you to this channel at the Salman Online Academy. So in this lesson we're having a physics class and we'll be looking at motion. But before we proceed, I just want to give you my details. My WhatsApp number is just here, which is +2348038295185. Okay, and this is my Instagram username, Edson number 4 REAL real. So in case you want to connect with me via my WhatsApp number, you can just chat me up via WhatsApp. Okay. In case you need maybe a private lesson, whether online or offline, anyhow, you can just connect with me from my WhatsApp details, or you have any question you want to channel to me. So before we proceed, I would love you to go ahead and subscribe to this channel and like the video, and at the end of the day you drop your comments, whether you have any questions or suggestions, you can go ahead and drop them. So like I said, I will be looking at motion in this lesson. So what is a motion? What is motion? Motion has to do with movement. But before we go ahead and go deeply into motion, there are some certain parameters we need to understand, some certain quantities that we need to actually understand before we can actually go ahead with the topic. So one of the parameters that we need to understand in motion is we need to understand things like parameters like distance, displacement, time, speed, velocity, acceleration, and so on and so on. So what is distance? Distance can actually be defined as a measure of the length or interval between 2 points. Distance is a measure of the length or the interval between 2 points. Distance is a measure of the length or interval between 2 points. So take for instance, let's assume I have a point A and a point B, and I measure that interval. I measure the length to be 50 meters. So that implies that the distance between point A and B is actually 50 meters. So that is just it. And distance, being a quantity, can actually be measured in various units. We have miles, feet, inches, meters, kilometers. But the SI unit of measuring distance is actually meters. The SI unit of measuring distance is in meters, which the symbol is m. Now, one common unit in which we work distance problems are kilometer and meters. 1,000 meters makes 1 kilometer. Okay, so now distance is a scalar quantity. Remember, a scalar quantity is a quantity that has magnitude alone. When you state the numerical value of a scalar quantity and a unit, you've completely specified the scalar quantity. And in this case now, whereby we had that distance from A to B is 50 meters, 50 is the magnitude of the distance, while the m, the meters, is the unit. So this is a scalar quantity. There's nothing like the direction in which the distance from A to B is being described. So we move on to the next quantity, which is called displacement. Now, what is displacement? Displacement is similar to distance, although there is a slight difference between distance and displacement. Displacement is actually the distance moved in a specified direction. the distance moved in a specified the distance in a specified direction. It can be defined as the distance in a specified direction or in a specific direction. When you state the distance and you state the directions as well, what you are now describing is no longer distance, but you are describing displacement. Let's take for instance that I walk for 50 meters. I worked for 50 meters from a point A to a point B on a bearing of 0-30 degrees. Now this 0-30 degrees is the direction in which I am walking. 50 meters is the distance. Now combining the distance with the direction, this is no longer distance anymore. This is describing displacement. So over here right now we are referring to displacement. So this is actually displacement. Displacement is the distance in a specified direction or in a specific direction, in a stated direction. So once the direction which the distance is being measured is stated, at that point we are now referring to displacement. And displacement is measured in the same unit as distance, meters, kilometers, miles, and the rest, but you have to state the direction. Okay, so displacement is, unlike distance, is not a scalar quantity. Displacement is a vector quantity. Why is it a vector quantity? Because you are not only stating the magnitude, you are stating its direction as well. So 0-30 degrees here was the direction of this displacement. The magnitude was 50 meters. 50, the unit meters. Okay, so that is displacement. So we are now going to move to another concept, another quantity, which is very, very useful in motion, called time. Time. So right now we are moving to time, a very important quantity in this motion. Time. So what is time? Time can be described as the duration of an event, how long it takes an event to occur. How long it takes an event to occur. Time can be defined or described as the duration of an event. Time can be described as the duration of an event, or how long it takes an event to occur. Take for instance, let's assume that the distance between a point A and B is 50 meters, and I ran from A to B. How long does it take me to run from A to B? If it takes me, let's assume it takes me 10 seconds to run from A to B, then the time taken for me to run from A to B is what? 10 seconds. 10 seconds. So it takes me a total of 10 seconds to run from point A to point B. It took me what? 10 seconds. A total of 10 seconds. So that is the time taken to run from A to B. The distance from A to B is what? 50 meters. So that is the time taken for me to run from A to B. So whenever an event occurs, it must have a time. And how do you calculate the time? When the event is starting and when it's ending gives you an idea of the duration of the time taken for that event to occur. So once you know the time the event starts and when it's ending, you can use the time it ends minus the time it starts to get the time taken. So having defined time taken, we're going to move next to speed. What is speed? What is speed? So we'll look at speed now. So like I said, I'm going to define speed. What is speed? Speed can be defined as the rate of change of distance moved with time. Speed actually describes how distance changes with respect to time. It compares how the distance changes with time. Take for instance right now, in the previous example when we're talking about time, the distance taken to move from A to B was 50 meters, while the time taken to move from A to B was 10 seconds. Now, if we want to compare how distance is changing with time, what we are trying to describe here is the speed. So let's look at that. So speed, the formula for speed is speed. We're going to represent speed with the symbol V. Speed with the symbol V is distance. We're going to use the symbol small s, while for speed we're going to use the symbol small v. So speed is equals to distance all over time. We're going to use the symbol small t for time. So now, over here, the distance from A to B is what? 50 meters. So we're going to put that in this equation now. Distance is equals to 50 meters. What's the time? The time is 10 seconds. So how is distance changing with time? So we're going to divide. 0 cancels 0. 5 divided by 1 is equals to 5. So how does the distance change with the time? Here we can describe that for every 1 second, this is 5 meters per 1 second, 5 meters over 1 second. So we can actually describe this as that for every 5 meters covered, it takes 1 second to cover a distance of 5 meters. It takes 1 second to cover a distance of what? 1 second. So if we were to break this 50 meters into 5 meters each, that will be a total of 10. We'll break this into 10 parts. So each of those parts, it will take them, those parts are, the distance are 5 meters each. We'll break this 5 meters, 5 meters, 5 meters, 5 meters, 5 meters, 5 meters to the end. Each of those 5 meters is covered in 1 second. Or we can automatically say that this is the speed at which I ran. If I was running from A to B and it took me 50, the distance was 50 meters, and I covered this in 10 seconds, that the distance is actually 5 meters per second. So the speed here is what? 5 meters per second. So 5 meters per second. So in 1 second, I cover a distance of 5 meters. You can actually interpret this in that way. That in 1 second, I cover a distance of 5 meters. So let me just take another scenario. Let's assume if they say that the speed at which a car drove off was let's say 100 meters per second. If a car move at a speed of 100 meters per second and they ask you what it means, this means that the car was able to cover a distance of 100 meters in 1 second, that for each second, when 1 second elapsed, the car will cover a distance of 100 meters. Another second elapsed, it will cover a distance of 100 meters. So we can actually look at this now. In this scenario, whereby a car moved at 100 meters a second, that means first 100 meters. Okay. First 1 second, it drove for 100 meters. If it covers another 100 meters again, which is now 200, 100 plus 100, then it will take another 1 second, making it a total of 2 seconds. If it covers another 100 meters, making a total of 300, it will still take 1 second, making a total of 3 seconds. So this is just the analysis. So having covered speed, we are going to move on to velocity right now. We are going to move on to velocity. So right now we move on to velocity. What is velocity? What is velocity? Velocity is similar to speed, but there's a slight difference. Speed is a scalar quantity. Speed has just magnitude, it doesn't have direction. But velocity has magnitude as well as direction. Velocity is a scalar quantity. Velocity can be defined as a rate of change of displacement. Speed was the rate of change of distance, move with time. Velocity is the rate of change of displacement, move with time. Velocity is the rate of what? Change of displacement, moved with time. You can also define velocity as the rate of change of distance, move in a specified direction. Or you can define velocity as a rate of change of speed in a specified direction. Let's look at the problem on speed. Let's assume that I ran that distance of 50 meters in 10 seconds. I moved from, I started from the west and I ran towards the eastern direction. And that was stated. So let's assume now that my velocity is stated as 5 meters per second from the west to the east. At this point now that the direction has been stated, that I'm running from the west towards the east, it is no longer speed anymore. At this point it becomes velocity because the direction has actually been stated. So when you state the direction, it is no longer speed, but without the direction it is speed. So right now I ran from the west towards the east. That is my direction at a speed of 5 meters per second. Okay, so what I have now is velocity because I've stated the speed, I've stated the direction as well. So like I said, that velocity is the rate of change of displacement, move with time, or rate of change of distance, move with time in a specified direction, or the rate of velocity is the speed in a specified direction. So that is just that. So we are going to move on right now to acceleration. What is acceleration? The last quantity we'll be looking at is acceleration. Acceleration. Okay. Before we move on to acceleration, I think we are going to stop here. And we'll continue in the next lesson. So if you have any questions or contributions, you can drop them in the comments section. And if you've not yet subscribed to the channel, Make sure you subscribe, like the video, and you can drop your comments, and make sure you share with your friends as well. Okay, so we'll meet in the next video where we'll go to acceleration, and before we even go to acceleration, we'll look at some concepts like uniform speed, uniform velocity, uniform speed, uniform velocity, average speed, average velocity, concepts such as that. Okay, so I gave you my WhatsApp number at the beginning of the lesson in case you wanted to connect with me in any way. And my Instagram account also was dropped, so you can connect with me via my social media handles. Bye.